it takes a second to do this. I don't know if there's a way in Zoom that I can have it like queued up. I know other people like Jason, when he's doing a live stream via his software, he has it all set to go.
In terms of,
we are now on YouTube. So if you would like, if anyone feels like sharing a link to YouTube with anyone, it's there in the chat, the Zoom chat specifically.
Okay.
I will post something on the Incomparable.
I like that this stream was promoted as having me as a special guest, and now I am
And
a
then
special guest.
Dan,
which
yeah,
is Dan.
I'm the specialer guest.
Dan, would you like to explain how you got here?
I walked to my office.
Yeah, great story. Great story, Dan. Welcome back. I don't know how to start these things. Welcome back to one of the very informal Tony Builds Legos live stream. This is, I believe, the 9th one of these. I assure you there is little to no continuity with previous ones. The
Do I have
premise
to be
of
caught
these,
up, or
you don't have to be caught up, Dan.
Okay.
Previous seasons.
The premise of these is that I build Legos because I was given a giant Lego set. I am slowly working on Lion Knight's Castle, a very big, very awesome Lego castle. And I frequently have a guest. Frequently it is James. Today it is James and surprise guest, Dan Morin. And we chat about stuff while Tony builds Legos. That's all there is to it. So
and usually
yeah.
we do not
premise.
talk about Lego. We talk
No.
about
the Legos are just in the background for me. So yeah.
this is
So we
like
have to come up with a topic.
well,
Dan, no pressure.
there are no show notes. There is
Yeah.
no topic. This is like rebound levels of prep. This is
Yeah.
Well, I could talk about. I'm playing a video game a lot.
Which one?
I know. I think James has already beat Jedi Survivor, but I'm still playing it.
You're still working your way.
Slow.
How far are you into it? Is this a 20-hour game or a 10-hour game?
It's probably like a 28-hour. I
Okay.
mean, depends,
Yeah,
right? It's one of those games that expands to fit the amount of time you have available to play.
There's
right?
a lot of open world to sort of
And I like to bounce around and do like, okay, I'm going to do a lot of plot line, and then I'm going to like, I'm going to save some plot line for later. I'm going to run around and collect boxes. And
yeah, there's a
guards
lot
and
of like
stuff.
go off on an hour tangent to get a small piece of a lightsaber.
yes,
Is pretty much the
or a
but
box that may contain a new beard.
yes,
Is that
Why is my beard in a box? I have.
Do you
so many
collect beards in
questions.
this game?
you do.
Indeed.
I mean,
Wow.
you collect beards, you collect hair, you collect
Pants.
Wow.
shirts.
This is because in the first one, I think it was just lightsaber parts.
No, this you get like parts for the droid, you get paint
Yeah.
jobs, you get
Wow.
there's a lot of customization.
Yeah.
And you've kind of got like a home base as well.
I do enjoy how there are a number of stories about like people trying to make Cal look as skeezy as possible, because
It's-
some of the haircuts and beards are bold choices.
It's sort of mullety.
There is a mullet. Yep.
I mean, let's be fair. Jedi fashion is kind of an oxymoron, right? I mean, didn't Obi-Wan have a rat tail?
I mean, it's Padawans. They have rat
Yeah.
tails. That's
Do they
their
all
thing.
like? Is that assigned to them? I was unclear if those were like regulation rat tails or if that was just
Anakin
the
has one too.
style of the time,
in
or is
Attack of the
that
Clones.
was that just the height of
Oh,
human fashion on Coruscant for the youth?
that's unfortunate.
I changed my Cal to have very sort of shaggy hair and beard and stuff, and I was told to change him back.
Oh, by
I went eventually with, you can get one that's like the mustache with the like goatee.
Mhm.
It looks like a 1930s swashbuckler or something. And there is a funny, but not to spoil anything, but there is a funny part where you have the game where you have to walk around in a disguise. And I thought to myself, who the hell would buy this guy as being whatever he is disguised as?
Yeah, I think it's a fun game. I think the story is very good. The combat, some of the combat is too hard for me.
Yeah, I had to. There is a particular boss fight that I played several times, and I kept getting very close, but it was one of those things where it's like you have to do everything perfectly, and if you screw up once, you are probably dead. And like, so I kept getting like beaten within like, I would get the boss down to like 1/3 or 1/4 health, and then I would get murdered. I'm like, it's reached the point where it's not fun anymore. So I turned
Yeah.
it down one notch so I could, and it was like, oh, now it's a cakewalk.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I've
Yeah.
trained on this harder level and like getting everything just right. And it's like, oh, now we're gonna be more forgiving. So yeah.
I think I had to do something similar in the previous game where there a fight with one of the Dark Jedi, and
yeah.
I played it 55 times, losing without getting the boss down to halfway, and then I was like, I'm just going to turn the difficulty down one notch and beat it on the first try.
Yeah, famously, I did the same thing, and also that was the game where I realized you could get more health.
Oh yes.
Like you can get extra stim packs, essentially, which are the things that give
Yes.
you a little health boost. And I didn't know that. I hadn't even known that was a thing because it is a Souls-like game, so it does not really signpost things for you. And so I had gotten like a truly bananas amount of the way through the game with only having the default 2, and then it's like, man, this game is real hard. And then for some reason it came across, it was like, oh, you can get up to 10 of these. I was like, you can get what?
Oh man, video games. They haven't yet decided. I mean, I guess we're not a big enough market, but the video games for old people is not taken off as a thing yet.
As the resident old person of this group, I mean, I find like just dialing the difficulty back is like my life is too short. I cannot. I want to have a fun.
I'm with you, but my outlet is mainly Googling. Like if there's something where I like have to spend more than 10 minutes thinking about it or whatever, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna look up how to do this.
I mean, like I've been playing the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which Nintendo famously generally doesn't have any difficulty settings. It's just, this is the game, you play it. And I've put 150 hours into that game so far. Which seems like a lot. And I'm probably about halfway through.
Wow.
That seems about right.
It is huge as these games go. And not a great spoiler, but there's like, you have your normal overworld, and then it turns out that there's an equal sized thing underneath.
What? Wow.
So it's vast, and but it's tremendous fun.
I would like to play that game someday. I can't ever imagine having that much free time. I mean, I exist in the very weird world right now of being unemployed, and I thought, oh, someday I might be unemployed and I'll read all the books and watch all the TV and play all the video games. But even being unemployed, there's a surprising amount of time that gets eaten up with looking for jobs, existing, keeping your house clean, things like that. It's a bad deal. I don't know what I signed up for.
I recommend the being employed and not doing your job.
I have somehow never gotten that one. I need,
it's definitely the way to go.
James, you're self-employed, so are you?
Well, no, technically, I'm employed by TLA Systems, the company of which I am an owner. Which is different.
I've been meaning as one. I've hostile bought up your shares, and I've been meaning to tell you to get back to work.
Well, somebody needs to really.
That's right. You need accountability. That's why I am also self-employed. And if there's one thing I've learned, maybe we should just exchange company ownership, James.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'll take control of the IP of your books.
Yeah, fine. It's not worth that much.
Not worth that much yet.
Yes.
Well, maybe James can do something about that.
Yeah, James could.
Yeah, by the time I hand the company
around.
back, I'll have sold the rights to Amazon or somebody.
That's right. Just peel them all off there.
One of those horrible video game or board game holding companies that buys games and then never makes games.
And then claims to own all the rights to them.
To rights to everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not naming anyone specific because they're litigious, but they know
they don't own you yet, so
not yet,
probably.
So.
Yeah.
Well, when did we last do one of these? It was like
it has been over a month.
Yeah. Well, not a lot has happened other than like. No, I'm thinking like lots of things happened in terms of Apple developing.
Well, I was going
on.
to say, how much are you impacted by things that were announced at WWDC and beyond? Do you have, has that defined your summer slate of activities, or less so than other years?
So Apple
James
announced.
claims he's dialing back on not jumping into all the new features, but I want to see if that's true.
Well, like, so Apple announced interactive widgets, and then seemed to be possibly briefing press that that wasn't the kind of thing you could do a calculator with. And
I heard that as well.
There was a calculator briefing specifically.
Well,
An
specifically, somebody asked,
an
"Could you use this to make a
anti-calculator
calculator?"
briefing?
Somebody asked, "Could you use this to say make a calculator?" And they're like, "It's not meant for that."
And you're interpreting that as like a dare, James?
Well, suffice to say, the evening of the keynote, I had built a calculator widget.
That'll
No
show
one's going
them.
to tell you what not to do.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think there might be some weird reverse psychology thing going on. Like, the best way to make me do things is to tell me I'm not allowed to do them.
Yeah, it's not for that. It's not possible. You know, you don't want to do that.
But then I saw a number of other people who are also doing ridiculously over interactive widgets, and seemingly to try and get banned before me in a weird kudos situation. Anyway, I mean, like, the thing that is the biggest thing is their stupid headset. Sorry, I shouldn't say stupid headset. I should say world leading new technology thing. But since I haven't tried it, Dan hasn't tried it.
I have also not tried it.
That would be weird if you had. If you were
Yeah,
the
it would be
only-
weird. You know, it would be weird. Yeah, Dan, I know
They're
a
like,
guy.
Tony, you've got some time on your hands.
I know a guy.
Why don't you
It's
come
you.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, like, supposedly future of computing that we all strap things to our faces.
I am very skeptical of that future of computing, mainly because I have very limited eyesight, and I don't think that the things that they sell you to make that work are. I suspect that won't be I mean, I'm sure it'll be possible, but I think it will be limited for me in terms of my weird eye condition, which is, you know, not a normal thing that lots of people are walking around with. So I get that, but yeah, I suspect it's
yeah,
not for me.
my eye problems also make me wonder whether I can use this thing for any extended period of time or
Yeah.
at all.
It's all right. The battery only lasts 2 hours, so you can't use that.
I
long.
mean, that is something. But yeah, I don't know. I want to believe, I think the official tagline.
Mhm.
So we shall see, but like, as to whether that is all going to impact my summer, not really, because they haven't shipped any
Well,
developer kits.
James, if you discover that you buy one and discover you can't use it, I'm right here.
Right there.
Send it right over.
I swear to you, if I buy a developer kit and I discover I can't use it,
I'll build an
you.
app. You'll teach me how to build an app, and then we'll build an
Dan's
app.
first app. Yeah.
Yes.
I've made. I mean, I guess not real apps. I've made.
You've not put
web
an app in
apps.
the App Store.
Look,
No, I haven't done that.
Dan, what would you say to a writer who has written something? You would say you are a writer. So if you have made
That's true.
something, you are a developer.
Thank you. I've made the I think comparable people are listening. The bot that lets you suggest titles in Discord, and I made that. I programmed that, so it's deployed.
thing?
It's out there.
That sure sounds like a piece of software which people
It
are
is.
actively using.
I
So-
know, yeah, and nobody's complained about it or told me there are bugs, so that's great.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's yeah.
I do have a feature request, but it's from Jason, so I have to listen to him.
Cruel overlord.
Just been lazy about doing it, so I'm truly a developer.
Yes.
Which is one thing I will tell you. There's a lot of cross pollination with writing there. That's like that.
There certainly is. It's the staring at a blank page, be it full of code or full of words.
Mhm. And code. What is code if not words? Really, when you think about it.
It's just slightly more structured words.
Mm-hmm.
So this time, no, I can't say that. We're not supposed to talk about that thing.
Yeah, I don't think we're supposed to talk about that. He says mysteriously.
I'll make up something. Fill the awkward pause there.
Dan, without you, it's just me and James doing awkward pauses all day. It's very soothing.
Yeah.
Some people like that.
Yes,
okay, sorry.
you know, You might have thrown the dynamic off of our
Yeah.
silences.
I'm okay with silences. I don't feel the need to.
I mean,
fill
I
everything
feel
with stuff.
like it shows the strength of our friendship that we can sit together in silence.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I got
Tony builds
Legos.
Legos and
Yeah.
James does something.
Yeah. James could be building Legos. That's his choice.
Yeah,
No.
I don't have the additional camera, so you can't see the fact that I'm building some extensive
Mhm.
Lego Death Star or something.
I don't have any Legos to build. I have to take apart one of my Legos from my shelf and then build it
That's
again.
rough. Yeah, I have this. Well, Dan, what you need is to have an organ fail, and the people to give you a very large Lego set, and then you slowly build that over the course of months. I do have.
I'm
once
not
I
sure that
finish
trade-off
this-
is worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I would. I mean, it's a great Lego, but no, I wouldn't do that. Once I
mean-
finish this Lego set, I don't know if I will stream it or not. My brother brought me from a trip to Japan. It's not Lego. It's generic building blocks.
Interlocking plastic blocks.
Interlocking plastic blocks with no, but it's of a Japanese castle, and it's a pretty cool looking set for a not Lego set. But yeah,
You would have to call the stream Tony builds,
other thing. Tony builds a castle.
non-specific.
Yeah, I mean, I think
interacting.
Steven Strapansky just has some kind of switch he pulls, and like a hit gets taken out on me, and I just like a Dalek rolls up to my house. I don't know. It's but it's bad.
Well,
Yeah, I know the again, I received it as a gift. It is not. I did not intentionally bring off-brand Legos into my house, but what do you do when you get a gift that you don't necessarily, you wouldn't have elected to obtain on your own?
Mm-hmm.
I did discover I had bought there was a set with a TIE Interceptor and a Mandalorian ship that came out a few months ago, and I bought that, put it to the side, and completely forgot I had it, and found it the other day. So I do have something to build, but it's the one that's got a dark saber in it.
Oh, fancy.
Not that I spent like £90 or whatever it was just so that my Bo-Katan could have an actual dark saber, and then, well, no spoilers for the show, but I will build that at some point, maybe not over the next few weeks, but
yeah.
My excitement was I discovered the public library system.
You made it quite a ways without finding that.
Wow.
Tell us more. Tell us more, James.
I have some questions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, more accurately, I bought myself an e-reader.
Mm-hmm.
I got a Kobo Libra 2 because I didn't want to give Amazon any more of my money.
I have an original Kobo Libra, and I like it a lot.
And so far, I really like this one. But what it can do in the UK, which the Kindles can't do, is you can hook it up to the library system. So I can go in and I can borrow ebooks and borrow them for 2 weeks and then hand them back, and it works.
And it's a good way to live. I do a lot of that these days because it's you can have like a little queue, and I like request a bunch of stuff, and something comes up, and it's like, oh, I'm in the mood to read that, or I'm not in the mood to read that, and I can pick and choose, which is nice.
Yeah,
I still pay for my books in part because I don't consume books at anywhere near the pace that Dan and others consume them at, and so that's still economical for me. But what I do from my local library is I get all their digital comics is what I do, mainly because I feel like I have reached capacity for comics in my home, and also it was always kind of the tricky thing of like, do I want to buy this title that I don't know anything about and see what it's like, versus, hey, I can get it from the library and then decide later if I want to say physically invest in that thing. But
Yeah,
I've
I
been
think
reading since during the pandemic. I read a lot of digital comics, and I even in the last couple months, I would say I have done the thing that is I feel kind of silly about, which is I have read a lot of comics on my iPad that I got from the library digitally, that are things I own the physical printed book of, but it's like
that's like
it's
when
on
you
the other
stream-
side of the apartment,
Yeah.
and it's like it's easier to it's like I can zoom in on these things, I can read at night, whereas it's like I can't do that with the print version as easily, but I feel silly when I do it.
That's when you stream something that you own on DVD.
DVD.
Yeah, and I've
yeah.
totally done that. It's like
Same.
it's on the other
Yeah.
side of the room. I would need to physically place it inside a PlayStation.
DVDs never got unpacked when we moved, and so far that's not really been an issue.
Yep.
I don't think there's anything that I've like, I must watch this thing that I only have on a DVD that is not, available on streaming or whatever.
Yeah, there is some stuff there's
There's
definitely
stuff
some
out
stuff, but
there,
I just
but it
haven't
is
I
few
haven't
and far
needed to
between.
watch it recently is the thing. Like I haven't come
Yeah.
across something that I own. The worst version of that was back in the day when you would be like sitting around and you'd catch a movie on television that was
And
like
you'd watch
on
part of it.
right, and you're like, well, you start watching and you're like, I own this movie, like that
Oh,
movie's over
okay.
there, and then you're like, yeah, but I'm already like halfway through, and it's like terrible because it's the TV version, and so there's commercials and everything. You're like,
Yeah.
it'd probably be
Yep.
easier, but like somehow the idea of getting it off the shelf and like
Mhm.
bringing it over and putting it in is more of like a commitment, right? Because like you sit there thinking like, I mean, I could turn it off whenever I want,
But something
right?
could happen. I could step out of the room. Everything. I'm still available, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Mhm.
it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine.
So, as a published author, what are your views on the library system?
James, you may remember
Pro or anti?
both of my parents were librarians.
I know.
They're now both retired, so I'm very pro library. I've worked in several libraries in my life, both in college, before college, and briefly after college. So I'm very pro library. I like the library a lot. I do wish something the UK and I think Canada have the US does not have, which would be really nice, is in those library systems, there's a setup where essentially when people borrow your book, you get like a little bit of money from the government,
Mhm,
basically.
yeah.
Like, which is
'Cause
like
you don't
like a
get
royalty.
anything here, right? It's
You get
basically
nothing.
they've licensed it, and then,
Yeah, you get the sale, you get your cut of the sale for the
Mhm.
license or whatever. And even that, I'd have to look and see how that works, because since ebooks are licensed differently than the way they're sold, I don't know how that works when it comes to a library buying a license for an ebook, because usually they have these complicated deals where
Mhm.
it's like you can lend it out X number of times before you have to buy a new license, which is supposed to simulate the wear and tear from a physical copy, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
which is kind of meaningless,
bizarre,
yeah.
but like it
But
is one of
yeah.
those things where it's like, but how do you compensate? I mean, I'm less concerned about the
Yeah.
publishers getting compensated. It's nice for them, but I'm more concerned about me. Like, and
Yeah.
like the authors are kind of the ones who get screwed.
And I assume
Hence, yeah,
your
lots
book
of
there must be libraries that have it as a digital book, right?
sure, yep,
Yeah.
yep, ebooks as well as physical books in libraries.
I mean,
I've
there
seen.
were, I think, even before the ebook challenges, there were a population of authors who didn't like that their books were in libraries. But I always felt like
Yeah,
those people were a little.
I don't
That
think
was
there's.
that was pretty fringy, right?
I don't think that's a lot of people. I think most
No.
authors are have benefited immensely from libraries, and thus
Yeah.
are always very gratified to see
Well,
their
and
book in a library.
there's some authors that don't like the idea of used bookstores, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess there's somebody out there that hates everything, but
I mean,
you know,
there was in the UK, I don't know if this was an 80s, 90s thing, but there was lots of bookshops that sold remaindered books.
Mhm.
The ones like with a notch cut in them or some kind
oh,
of.
that's yeah.
You're not
You're
supposed,
not supposed to
to,
do
but
that. Those are illegal.
there are ways that works, because I remember, Tony, you might remember the bookstore near us growing up, which called New England Mobile Book Fair, which was
Yeah.
this like bananas like warehouse full of
It was
books.
just a warehouse that
It
basically
had
had registers at the front. It was pretty cool. People loved
was
it. At the time.
awesome. It was a great bookstore, and it was fascinating because they also had this weird arcane system where things were shelved by publisher.
Yes.
And it's like hard to find things, so you had to like go to like an index and like look up stuff. Anyways, they had a remainder section. And they definitely sold stuff off. So I don't know how that works. You're not supposed to, right? If you're like, they're
Yeah.
supposed to destroy the covers or tear the covers off, and then they can't be resold. But I guess it's either that or they get pulped, basically. So I don't
There
really
must have
know.
been. It must have been a deal that they were only getting with certain publishers or something.
Yeah,
Because
something
most
like
places
that.
you can't. I remember.
I think there was
the
like
whole thing.
there were definitely I think lawsuits from publishers against these, because it was one, I think it was called Bargain Books or something, but it turned out like the local like tiny small supermarket that was near where I lived. On the way back from school, I would go in there and they would have like just like a little display of these remainder books with like a little notch cut out of them, and they were all like 10 pence or something like that.
Mm.
And that was, to young James, that was the kind of money that I could commit to spending on books.
Oh, young James.
And I just bought literally a whole load of things by their cover. Look at cover,
Mhm.
that looks cool, I will buy that because it's 10 pence. And
Yeah.
so I ended up reading vast amounts of like deeply feminist sci-fi books, and like all these things with like trans protagonists and all things which probably
Jason,
didn't.
James, were you radicalized by the remaindered books? This is great.
I was. I think I was genuinely, because I read all this stuff that I had never heard of. And
James, this is only supposed to be happening in schools. This isn't supposed to be happening through capitalism. This is a harrowing story.
it was the great kind of capitalism in which presumably no authors made any money, which is bad.
Oh, yeah.
But I got to read all these kind of just completely out there stories and loved them all. The main problem I then had was when I hit 16 or something, I decided I don't need these stupid books anymore. I've got a computer. And so I sold my entire book collection.
Oh.
And now, of course, deeply regret it because I have no idea what half of these things are. But I did, like you, find in my parents' attic not that long ago a bin bag full of books which I thought had gone out. And it was mostly things like all my choose your own adventure, or the British equivalent, which was called Fighting Fantasy. And I
did not know there was a different version. You guys,
they were just the same concept.
Yeah, but you weren't allowed to choose. You had to fight fantasy.
They were by a couple of authors, Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone. Livingstone went on to do Core and like Lara Croft and Warhammer. Did they?
Steve Jackson of Steve Jackson Games?
No, okay. So here's the thing: there are two Steve Jacksons. In the kind of like RPG.
Got it, because this is like how there's two Jon Favreaus.
Right.
Yeah. But later on in the run of these books, they swapped the Steve Jackson. So
what?
It still said Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson, but I think the Steve Jackson was the American Steve Jackson for some of them. Yes, it was complicated. But
they're both game design. I'm looking it up now because I'm super curious.
You'd think one of them would go by a middle initial.
The British one is the guy who co-founded Games Workshop. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, so Warhammer. Yeah.
Fascinating.
And Ian Livingstone definitely, I think he was related to Lara Croft, not like to her.
Lara Croft. Just so we're clear, Lara Croft is a fictional character, James. I know that it's part.
Oh yeah. Okay. The So he is often mistaken for the American game designer with the same name, Steve Jackson. The American Jackson wrote 3 books in the Fighting Fantasy series, which adds to the confusion, especially as those books were simply credited to Steve Jackson without any acknowledgement of it's a different person. That's wild. I love it.
So you need to find a Dan Morin who can write more books in your series and just
like just offload that. That's fine.
I forget, Dan. Are there other Dan Morins?
There are a few.
Lesser Dans.
I believe there is one somewhere who was at some point a special agent for the DEA or something.
Ooh.
Who is probably the most like if you search for him, like that one will come up. And then I think there's one this seems bad.
Oh no, sorry. I didn't know. Perhaps I didn't know what I was getting into.
Well, I was like, I started Googling it and whatever, and it's like, I don't know what happened. He's basically apparently he's a retired employee of the DEA, and he can there's I just found a legal filing where he contested a $110,000 debt assessed by the agency.
Oh no.
Anyways, that's fine. And I think he may now be the same one who may work for Starbucks in the corporate security or something like that.
Oh wow.
So
I thought you were going to go like he was now just working at Starbucks, like he was a barista.
Yeah, that's right.
Secret agent.
Don't ask me how I found that out, but
well, There was a time if you searched for me on Google that I was at like the top hit, and then they discovered all these, like there was a dead poet of some renown, and he has taken over, and many others. There's a
How did he's dead? How has he overtaken you, James?
I just got worse. I think
I'm just saying
really I'm saying.
you can't compete with a dead guy. Come on, James.
But there's also a James Thompson that does podcasts about like Amazon or something. And I see him, like if I search for podcasts,
you got yourself a Lex Friedman problem there.
Yeah, Lex Friedman.
Yeah, I mean it's not as bad because I don't think he's terrible. But
you just don't know.
Yeah, I mean I'm talking about our Lex Friedman being terrible.
Yeah, well, we know he's terrible.
Yes, the one that's the slightly less litigious Lex Friedman. That's the terrible one. Yeah,
just to be clear.
Yeah, just to be clear.
But yeah, I got my Discord name of James Thompson, which I wasn't expecting, because they've been going through and making everybody on Discord pick a unique name. And they were doing it in the order that people joined, but then the people who were paying them money first. So I didn't think I would get it, but I got mine.
I did not get I'm D Morin everywhere, and I didn't get it on Discord because somebody already took it. It's very upsetting.
Yeah. That's why I go with my full name, just because my name, James is so common.
So common.
And there's enough James Thompsons out there. But I try and at least park my name on any service that comes up. So, Blue Sky and the likes.
Yeah, I mean, I use D Morin everywhere. I don't remember why I started using it. I think it was just what I picked for like an email address at some point, and I hit that point where it's like, yeah, you have like your handle or alias or whatever back when we were all like, probably in our 20s or whatever. You had like a thing that didn't have any connection to your name. Probably it was your username in a lot of places, and I decided, no, I'm not going to use that publicly anywhere. And so I started just like, oh, I'll just make it. I didn't want to make it my full name for some reason. I don't know. I just got stuck in that, like,
so people couldn't find you.
Last name. Yeah, exactly. I wanted to be anonymous. So, but I'm now at Dan Morin on Discord because like that's the only thing I could get.
I use Stress Panda in a variety of places. That's like, sort of gamer tag type places,
right?
And things, and Instagram and a few other places. Anywhere that I'm kind of like, well, not sure that this is going to be an official presence. So that's my alter ego. But
I used to have
very
one.
Inconsistent
anymore.
Yeah. I think I have Stress Panda across Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo.
So if you'd like to be Xbox friends with
James Thompson, well, you can try, but I will probably, if I look at it and say I have no idea who this is.
Yeah, when I got my PS5 last year, I had to come up with one for the first time in a long time, and I didn't know what to do. I think I eventually somehow picked like two words that sounded like okay together or something. It was like, I'm just going with that. And maybe I should backport that to my Xbox handle at some point so I have that consistency, but I'm lazy.
They let you change. There was some point in the last 5 years or whatever that they let PlayStation people change theirs, but they clearly had some deeply ingrained database thing that the original needed to exist, and that was actually the record, and then there was kind of like a display name. But so some older software wouldn't display your right name, and some of it just didn't work at all, and it just sounded.
Well, there's famously, like, I think on the Xbox for a long time you had to pay to change it, and I think now you can change it at least once for free. I don't know if you can do it more than that, but yeah. I think I also had one that was bad to pronounce. People would constantly mispronounce it when it was, and it just had a string of numbers on the end too, which felt terrible. So everything about that was a bad experience.
Dan, I kind of liked it.
I mean,
it was consistent. It was like my old AIM address, basically.
I'm sure there are some people who, like 5 years ago came up with something like COVID-19 was their
Well, there's
gamer tag and
there's a whole I forget. I think there was a Tumblr at one point with like deeply regrettable tattoos. But for example, I think there was like a mid-level band, rock band that had a decent following, that was ISIS.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there walking around with Bill Cosby tattoos on their body. So, I don't know what the lesson is here.
Yeah, the lesson is never get somebody else's face tattooed on you. Only tattoo
Mm.
your own face on your
Yes.
body. Just
Or
for like a
your own
memento-like situation.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah. Tattoos
Yeah.
challenging. You
I-
never know what's gonna happen.
I have no tattoos. I will admit
That you
this.
know of.
Well, yes, I might have one on my back that I have
Yeah.
never seen, but
Ooh, that's a great, yeah. It's like up there with stealing your kidneys in a bathtub full of ice. Give somebody a strange tattoo.
yeah, it just says "Do not resuscitate" on the
Mm.
back on my back. But
Or unfortunately, when they have to give you CPR, you're almost always lying on your back. So far, they keep bringing you back, James.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. This is generally the spirit of these Lego discussions,
Yeah,
where we just go rambling.
So, I mean, let's put it this way. One of, if not the, I don't think it was the first, but one of the first podcasts I ever did was Tony and I doing basically just this.
Yep. You did heavily edit them though, Dan.
I would basically find things where we'd find
in
like
your
a
defense.
solid like
Yeah.
5 minutes that was funny, and I would clip those, and then I just put musical stingers between those bits. So we'd talk.
That
for
was
like
that was
2
a great
hours.
podcast that I think unfortunately the place that it was hosted died. I think I went
I
looking for it a couple of
probably
years
have all those files somewhere,
ago.
and I
Mhm.
keep threatening to like remaster them and upload them.
Yeah,
so
but
I
that's-
feel
and I keep paying the fee, and so we're fine, so it's
that feels like an incomparable superhero level.
Yeah, someone's gonna have to give Tony money.fund a lot of money, and also buy a ton of my books, and then I'll consider it.
Yeah, this is that you got to buy off both of us. This is not; these don't come cheaply because they're
That's right.
not very good.
No, that's not how you're supposed to sell it, Tony.
Yeah.
That's not how you're supposed to. You say they're exclusive.
They're exclusive. I mean, Dan and I have we go way back. We have a variety of projects that are regretful. I think they're probably less regretful than our
current
projects. We had a web comic for a
Did
while.
have a webcomic.
Which was it was of its time.
Several strips from that have definitely been
Yeah.
purposefully taken offline because they did not reflect
They did
well
not.
on
No.
our. I mean, we were literally
Yeah.
20
I
or
mean,
so
their humor was sophomoric because we were sophomores.
sophomores. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, like I have the advantage of when I was 20, there was a lot less of the internet around. So
That's true. There wasn't a ton when we were. I mean, like, I think we started a web comic with the same enthusiasm that people a generation earlier started a band, basically, right? Which was like, oh man, we're gonna hang out in the attic in Tony's attic and make a web comic.
About the same level of talent that we brought
results.
to that. Yeah, no. No, I mean, I think there was it was that was possibly I don't know if it would be referred to it that way, but I would think of it as the golden era of webcomics, where there were a bunch of webcomics. They were certainly pretty like it felt like all webcomics back then had to be at least indirectly about video games. That was a thing, which it was like, why did it take us so long to outgrow that as a constraint of the medium? But yeah,
Well, comic books are still about superheroes.
yeah.
so
Function of the art, the people that were making them, I think, at the time.
so who was on art and who was on words, or was it a
Well, there was a
Words
team.
was
There were 4 of
collaborative.
us. Yeah, there was 4
Yeah.
of us.
Someone else did one of our other friends did the art because
Yeah.
none of the rest of us could draw.
No, we really couldn't. And then Dan, did you do the website, or was that you and Kai?
No, Kai did most of the Kai made the website, and then basically,
And he made like a very early proto CMS for us.
yeah. He was working as like a web dev or something, and so actually, funny story about that is that we still have that site still has lifetime free web hosting.
Yep.
Because he was an intern at DreamHost. and they
Right.
just gave him free stuff. And not only that, but I think that domain is still perpetually renewed for free. We have never paid for it, but it's been ours for 20 years.
And I
And
think he was at DreamHost when DreamHost was like 10 people, basically.
yeah, it was not a lot of people. Yeah, I think he knew the founders and stuff. But this was again 20 years ago. Amazing,
Yep.
they're still in business.
Yeah, especially given the amount of stuff they give away for free. That's not a great idea.
He built a site in PHP, and that was when I was living in Scotland, James, when I was at school in Edinburgh, and I was very I did not have a lot of friends for the first couple months because most of the people I lived with were much older than me. They were all like graduate students. And so I basically made it like stuff would break, and Kai, lovely man, somewhat flaky, would not fix things. And so I basically just taught myself by basically reverse engineering all the PHP code to understand what he had done, which is how I taught myself PHP. And then you later use that to get a job as a web developer.
Which is the great way to actually learn things, is to, have an authentic problem that you have to solve, that you're motivated to solve, Dan, as opposed to, something that someone has assigned you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wrote basically as all web comics were in that era, ours was patterned in form, if nothing else, after Penny Arcade. And so we had 3 strips a week, and then I would write a news post most days that would go up on the site to accompany the comic. And again, I was living by myself in a foreign country without a lot of friends, and so I would write those in the computer lab in Edinburgh, and then post those. And did that for, I think we kept it going for a solid 6 months to a year, or somewhere in there.
I forget. It was a multi-year endeavor, but I think we went very back and forth between how often. I think there was a pretty small window in which there was actually 3 strips a week.
Or
even and that was a subset of a window in which there was, say, something posted every week, and then there was My role was mainly I did the photoshopping / coloring of because I would receive black and white pencil art, and then that would get colored. I guess you would call it inked, but I was using Photoshop to do all that, and I did about 50% of it. I will tell you, the 50% of the comic strips that were done by the other guy, Kai, look a lot better. But and that was also one of those I was learning. It was again a powerful motivator for learning how to do different things in Photoshop and piecing together stuff. So it was a fun project.
We all learned a lot.
Good experience.
So what years were you in Scotland?
I was there only 6 months, it was January to June 2001.
Okay.
I've opened the second bag of Legos of the build session, thus indicating that I am halfway through today's build.
Were you in Scotland at that time?
Yes, I was just trying to. I was working. I was back in Scotland because I was out from 96 to.
Can we figure out geographically how close were you? Were you ever?
Oh, I definitely went to Glasgow, so I'm sure we were at one point in proximity. But
yes,
I could probably find a picture from Glasgow and figure out when. I was only there once. See if James in the background.
Photo bombing in the background.
Yeah, I found that with a friend who attended an event that I also attended. It was one of those things where iPhoto did the facial recognition, and I was like, "Is this your friend so and so?" And I was like, "Yes," in the background of this photo, but that's 3 years before we met. That's weird, but it was because we attended the same event all the time. So that
happened to me too with another person. I was at a party, and but it wasn't even that. It was the person showed me a picture and was like, here's a picture, it was a photograph, a physical photograph.
That's weird.
And they're like, this is you in this picture. And we hadn't met at that point. And I'm like, what? Wait,
is this
that? I was also at that party.
Dan, this is like the CD we found on the street. I want to point out this is the minifig that this second bag came with. This is a guard. I've been somewhat fascinated recently by the hair on various minifigs, mainly in that I have not found a good Lego hair type that represents my own hair. I feel like this particular hair that they have given this guard is questionable. So, he's got kind of a bowl cut represented here. So
all right, James, I've located a picture of a street in Glasgow on May 24th, 2001. And you can
you account for your
searching it now to find you.
Joke's
May-
on you. James doesn't leave his house.
I was like, I had this sudden moment to look over and I was like, oh, that's weird. That guy looks just like my uncle. Oh, that is my uncle. I guess
Yeah,
and then my mom's in one corner too. I was like, all right, that makes a lot more sense.
that makes Oh damn.
I mean, I did. There was a friend who went to an event for a book launch last month, and like all the sort of London sci-fi fantasy authors were at this thing. And my friend also has a book deal, and her book is coming out soon. I would say link in the show notes, but we don't have any show notes.
Sorry.
But
You can put it in the YouTube chat if you want.
it's called Fathom Folk by Eliza Chan, and it will be great because her writing is really good. Anyway, point was then looking at all the Instagram of all these authors that I am also following on Instagram, and she was at the back of the photo of each one, and it's like, I am extremely jealous that you got to hang out with all these cool people. Not jealous enough to want to become an author, but
Yeah.
Not a great job.
I'm just get to work, James.
I will, I think, leave the writing to the more talented people.
And me.
I've read your books. I like your books enough that I
Thank
want
you.
to read more of your books.
Yeah, get to work, Dan.
All right. Hold on.
And they all died.
The end.
Well, there may be more books to come. We'll see.
I mean, I don't think you're done.
No, I don't think I'm done either. But I
Okay,
don't-
just making clear. Like, are you okay? It's like, I feel
I
like
mean, yeah.
is-
I meant more
is
in the
there-
sense
is
of
there-
the perhaps there will be more things announced
okay.
officially.
All
I
right.
just can't. Maybe
I was like,
do
are
that
you
on a
announcing that you're
stream.
dying? Is that what this is? There's no more books ever.
I do have COVID, but I'm not dying.
Okay, good.
I mean,
good
I
update.
hope
we're all
not.
we're all dying.
We're all
Yeah,
dying.
it's just a matter
but,
of velocity.
but it's how many more books we can get out of you before this. This-
Squeeze.
Yes,
Right.
until we can train the generative AI to write
Ugh.
them in your style.
It's
Yeah.
probably not that hard.
Um.
Oh, I despair for that future because
Yeah, it's coming one way or another, unfortunately. But
I
can't
will
say I'm a
only
fan.
buy the hand-authored human books.
We have to go back to writing them with a fountain pen or something.
Dan, did you ever write them with a fountain pen?
No.
Okay,
that's
just
the
being clear.
sucker's game.
I mean, some people like writing with a fountain pen, but I think not books.
I mean,
I
some
went through
people
that
use
phase.
don't
was
some
a
people
pain.
use typewriters still?
oh yeah,
Like
sure.
Stephen
I'd
King, a
rather-
kind of typewritery person.
I'd rather use a typewriter. Oh man,
Yeah, I
you
only
just-
use WordPerfect. That's my weird.
you
nostalgia.
definitely. What are you, George R. R. Martin?
Does he do
Uh,
that?
I think he uses WordStar. He has some
Okay.
weird
Yeah.
old word processor that he uses. 'cause
There
he's a
was
strange man.
I'm trying to think of the author name. Oh,
Look, everyone should live whatever life they want, but that should be illegal.
I'm now gonna look up the name. Oh, was it Bernard McClaverty?
That sounds like a fake name, James.
Yeah, James, that's
He's
not
a
the best.
Scottish author, and he's known to elements of my family.
Mm.
But I
That's
think
spooky.
one of those people used like an Amstrad CPC, which was like an old, I don't know if it was related to like the Sinclair Spectrum or some. It was an old machine, and I think it was still being used. Not by, I don't think, any time recently, but yeah, I don't. I think you need to write your next novel with the Apple Vision Pro.
Oh man, I just can't. I don't.
And
know.
not
What-
using a keyboard paired to it. You have to purely do it through
through eye tracking.
like, through yes.
Oh god, yeah, it's gonna really hurt my eyes. I don't think I'm that fast.
The thing is, like when I'm writing code, certainly my thought processes are a lot slower than I can type. So it's
Well, it's
not-
like I know people who've tried writing stuff with dictation, and some people are more successful at that, but I can't imagine because like I would just be stumbling all over my words. It would look like nonsense. And I would have to edit it intensely to make it work. Because like you
I
look at
mean-
a transcript of any podcast, right? And you're like, if you wrote this would be terrible.
It's called naturalistic dialogue.
That's what we
right.
offer here on Tony Bill's Legos. Naturalistic dialogue.
Yes.
The finest naturalistic, the most natural.
It
most
is
distant.
so highly authored to
Mm.
sound like we're just making this up as we go.
Yeah. People don't believe that this is unscripted. People believe
Yes.
that.
You can see my eyes looking at the script that I have
Mm,
in the projector.
I guess there's some controversy with some actual play D&D podcasts as to how unscripted they are or not. I can assure you
controversy.
that Total Party Kill is completely unscripted.
I mean, it's completely unscripted.
If it was scripted, it would have to be better. It would just have to be.
I would say it's unscripted, except when James has an idea between sessions and thinks of something, but it's not.
Do you write that idea down? Do you tell anyone about it, James? No, you don't. Because if you did, we would stop you.
No, I mean, like other than the vast backstory document that Annette and I have going, there isn't really anything written.
I did. I had another one of those weeks where I think I ran 5 D&D sessions. That was great.
Why do you do this to yourself?
Usually, they're mistakes. Yeah, it is at this point a mistake where you're scheduling something and it's like, well, there's nothing on this Wednesday, and you don't look and notice that you're running D&D on the Thursday and the Friday, and so you're like, yeah. We often do a lot of our scheduling for our non-podcast D&D. Yes, we do some non-podcast D&D. I'm sorry, don't take it personally. And the challenge there is that we do the scheduling at the end of the session, and it's hard, and so my defenses are down.
So we have people on that in those groups who are very like, I want to play D&D all the time. And
not like those other groups that are just like, I don't know about this.
Yeah, so
I did. I have been running very slowly for Dan and some other people the adventure Baldur's Gate: Descent into Avernus, which I think is a pretty good adventure. I have not finished it, so I can't give you a final judgment on it. But we did have the thing we played last week, Dan, maybe on like a Wednesday or a Thursday. And our next session is not scheduled until a month from now. But I totally spent all day Friday reading up on the lore for stuff that won't be useful for a full month, because I was excited about.
I hope you don't forget all the lore in between now and then.
I took extensive notes. So
okay, good.
Dan, I went to graduate school. The only skill,
not me.
Well, you probably have what I learned in graduate school, which was the ability to, read several hundred pages of stuff and jot down, a few paragraphs of notes, and then eject that information from your brain, and proceed.
I was really bad at taking notes in school. It was never one of my strong suits.
You didn't have to like analyze lots of text though?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm just bad at taking notes.
You're bad at taking notes.
Yeah, I was very bad at notes, particularly in the university.
I think I only got good at it in graduate school, and it was that thing where I don't think before then I had really taken notes on things that I would read. I always thought of note taking as a thing you did, in lecture. And I would say that, it is not a simple skill to do. I also don't think it's a skill we really teach people so much as just really hope that they figure it out somewhere. But I do it a lot. I even, when I was working, I would take notes in meetings all the time. And that was in part, like if you're going to a million meetings, I needed notes to be able to refer back to stuff later. And it was also like, it was a way that I would pay attention, right? Is that like maybe what is being talked about right now is boring, or doesn't directly impact me, but can I follow along and like summarize a 10-minute conversation into like 2 bullet points of like, this is the thing that was actually decided. And I was always amazed. There would be people who, were older than me, who were paid a lot more money than me, who would be real bad at being like, what did we remember last time? And it's like, you sit in meetings all day, you don't know how to take notes. Like, so I don't know. Notes, pretty good. The idea of literacy, I'm a fan. What can I say? I'm pro literacy.
Pro literacy.
Yeah,
that's a good choice.
Yeah.
Just get the computers to record every word that is said to me in any given day and index it all for me.
Well, there are theoretically these, I have not tried them, but there are these AI tools that advertise that they can, you feed it a recording of a meeting and it'll give you a summary of it. I don't know.
I-
There's some
I'm not
wacko
ready-
Mac tool.
I'm not ready to trust that yet.
There was
Yes.
some weird Mac tool that would track everything you do, so you could go back and look at stuff, and that to me sounded
was
the
like
most
every-
terrifying thing in the world.
I think
Yeah.
was it like it recorded audio and it did.
Yeah, it
like,
required a lot of permissions, and I was not comfortable with that.
It's like you cannot record my video 24/7.
My screen, my video, my audio. No, that's out. Sorry.
Well, it's like there are companies that would love. I think there are probably some companies that make their employees run that so that they
Yes.
can like track what they're doing and divvy it up across projects and things like that. And
I think
I
that
have
is-
I have occasionally had jobs where I had to report, what I did throughout a day in half-hour blocks that allocated different codes. I hated that. I think every job that I had like that was a thing where, workers of a certain role did that and the people above them never did that, which I always thought was, a gross hypocrisy. So
the best thing that I had like that was when I worked at Apple and
Mhm.
my local manager didn't have clearance for the project that I was working on.
Mm.
So you had to do these things each week, whereas like, you say what you have been working on and then what you are going to be working on and all those kind of things. And for every one of them, I just wrote, have been working on secret project, will be working on secret project. And after several, weeks of that,
He was like, please stop sending me these.
please stop.
That's good. That's one way to do it.
So yes, project security is the best way to do this. Yeah, I think like I always like in lectures thought if I'm taking notes, I'm not really listening to what's being said, or I'm just
That can
doing
be a valid argument.
text to speech. And so if I listen intently and take no notes, I will take this in much better. I did not.
Oh, there are certainly people who try and think of their notes as a transcript, and that is a really bad experience. If you are like trying to write down everything that people say,
You might as well just record the lecture at that point.
And
That's-
people do.
but
I
people
mean,
do that. But what they don't understand is like that is bad.
Well,
and does
it's like
not
the people
work.
who would go through
Um,
reading and highlight
highlight
stuff and
everything.
highlight everything.
Yeah,
It's like, well,
no,
that doesn't make.
that doesn't actually help you. But people think it helps them, unfortunately, which is, this doesn't need to transition into a unlicensed Tony's Teaching Tips podcast, but there are these challenging things that, people believe about how they learn. And, learning is a pretty personal thing. So it's hard to convince someone that it's like, is that actually working for you? And, it's also possible that, there certainly can be things that work for one person that don't work for another person. But yeah, trying to write down everything that someone is saying is not going to be a useful way to absorb that information, because you're so frantically basically transcribing stuff that you don't retain any of that information.
I particularly liked their Tony giving a heartfelt speech on the various ways to learn while Dan is making faces off camera.
Is
There
that
was a
what Dan's
baby.
doing?
I had to.
Oh.
I had to wave
Oh,
at the
okay.
baby.
Oh, okay.
It was just a lovely.
It's Father's Day, please.
I thought Dan was just sick of me. So
No, none of that.
mm.
Yeah.
I have because it's WWDC, it's effectively Apple drops, like 100 lecture videos.
I was gonna say, don't you have to watch all these or a significant number of these?
I
To
mean,
keep up with things.
yes.
What's going on?
Have I
James?
watched all
Do
of
I
them?
need to sell all my TLA stock?
Well, I need to watch at least some more of them before MacBreak Weekly on Tuesday, so I actually
Okay.
have a vague idea of what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's a lot of content, and my brain finds it hard to absorb it all. But it's easier than it was when it was actual WWDC, when you had to sit in a hall and have like a day's worth of lectures. And that was always by like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was jet lagged, tired, and they'd already wheeled away the snacks because the Moscone was unionized, and something about the snacks having to go away at the moment you wanted them.
That may be, James, just so before we get mail, that may be a reflective of a certain policy that's not reflective of all unions. I don't think, as an institution, unions are not inherently anti-snack. I'm just I want to be real careful about how we're using Tony Built's Legos to
I would like to state for the record that I'm
agendas.
very pro-union, except whoever took my snacks away.
Okay.
In Moss
All
County.
right. Gotcha.
Your anti-snack disestablishment.
Yes.
Just
I don't know what it was. I think they had to use like the facilities of the building or something.
They do. They always have to do that.
Yeah.
That's
and
a
it
pretty
was
common thing.
It was always like, so-and-so session is finished. I will go out and I will get that bag of M&Ms that will give me enough sugar to get through like the final lecture of the day. And you would go out and the carts would just be disappearing off into the
rolling
sunset.
So who is giving these? Are they all Apple employees or do they have?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's all Apple employees, and now it's at least slightly easier because they're pre-record stuff, so they're not done live. So I think there's a lot more people who are happier doing that kind of thing.
I can imagine that
would be less happy standing up in front of a crowd of hundreds or
right. If you mess something up, you can redo it, or your demos will always work, right? Because if they fail, you just redo it.
And guess what? It's a better experience for most people.
Yeah,
unless there was something really truly interactive and useful about.
There used to be, but they got rid of that.
Yeah. So
I mean, I think it used to be you could actually talk to people, but now you can talk to people. You just can't talk to executives.
You can do it online,
unless you're John Gruber. And I think, I mean, I think the way that the WWDC is now is a lot better because it's not like 1,000 rich white dudes.
I was going to say
I
assume it's more available, right?
Yeah,
people.
And like actually being on campus, like for the stuff, if you're not press, is probably worse because like I'm at home and I can just download stuff and start writing code, and other people are like sitting in hotels and or whatever. I think it's better in some ways. I do miss like a certain era of WWDC because it was like, hey, it's all your friends.
And it's like a mini version of that now. It's like, a lot of people I know that I only see at these events, but also a lot of people that used to come to these things no longer come. So
I mean, it's
not quite the week-long party that it used to be.
There's probably more consistency on the press side than there is in the development side.
Yes.
Also, Dan, you are probably slightly less inclined toward week-long party than you used to be.
I was only there for 48 hours.
And caught COVID.
And got COVID. So really worst of everyone. And didn't get to see the headset. Really got a bad deal.
Were you supposed to see the headset and then had COVID, or
no?
Just you weren't on the list for the headset.
I wasn't on. I didn't make the cut.
Yeah. Only one.
I saw it. Let's be clear. I did see it. I just didn't get to use it.
Is that better?
No, it's actually probably worse.
Did you just get to watch Jason put it on?
No, I didn't get to see it. I was not even allowed into the building where they were doing that.
God.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I saw it. I was literally like within like visual distance of it, and I asked my PR handler what would if I just made a break for it, what would happen?
And that's
like we'd probably both get in a lot of trouble. It's like, okay, well, I don't mind getting myself into trouble, but I don't want to get you into trouble because that seems rude.
No, that's rude.
And another mark was made on your permanent file for next year.
That's and then they gave me COVID.
They assigned you COVID. Wow,
here, drink from this cup.
Just to be sure that you
that wouldn't have happened under Steve Jobs' Apple. Well, it might have.
Oh yeah, no, Steve Jobs. We all got COVID.
It wouldn't have been COVID. It would have been something much worse.
Yeah, it would have just been acid. Here you go.
So WWDC is just complete information overwhelming. It's like here is a complete term of courses, but they all drop within the space of 4 days. And I tend to just come back to stuff when I actually need to know things. And a lot of it I get through osmosis from other places. But because I'm trying to not drive myself mad this year,
Right.
I've not dug into as much as I normally would have by this point. But yeah, I am actually supposed to go and be a knowledgeable punter about this in a few days. So
I watched a decent amount of them, but yeah, like the trick for me is always the places where it like quickly becomes beyond my level, because it's like I'll be watching, I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, here's the code, how you do this. I don't care.
yeah, I mean, there should be the sort of like, I mean, I guess that's what State of the Union is to a certain extent. It's the here is more technical information that is interesting to people, press and developers.
Yeah.
But then when you get into the actual sessions and it's somebody talking about async this and
some of them are more interesting, like some of them are more accessible than others. And like you can sometimes get little tidbits, which is why I watch them, is like there's little things that they just mentioned. They're like, oh, that didn't get mentioned anywhere. That's an interesting little fact. But yeah, it is definitely one of those things where I feel like I top out at a certain point. Like I
Sure.
know just
Information
enough to be
overload.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to your PHP Apple Vision app.
I write some Python now too. I do a little bit of both.
Okay.
Is that valid? I can do that. I looked at Swift and I'm like, I could probably like figure out enough to like write something very basic, but like, cause I will read like code snippets and I do get parts of them. Like I was like, all right, I understand the broad strokes of what you're doing here. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest issue is I don't have a thing I need to write. Like if I had an idea for an application that's like, oh, we really need this, and maybe that would be fun to do, but I never got that far of being like, here's a problem I need to solve.
I mean, to be honest, I look at a lot of Swift and I have the same reaction to it because that language moves so fast. It's like, yeah, I understand the basics, but what does that mean? And it's like, oh, that was introduced, last month. Okay, I have no idea. It's a lot, or it was a lot easier with something like Objective-C, which had been around for 20 plus years and had kind of stabilized, because if you search for sample code, most of the time that just works. Whereas with Swift, it's like, which version of Swift was this? So
flux.
Yeah. But that's I blame the young, I think.
Oh.
Bold choice.
Yeah.
All these young people coming into companies and wanting to
earn a living, yeah,
change things. With their, I don't know, I can't really make fun of them, but it's just, I'm not old, but I am getting to that point where I sometimes react to something in a negative way. And I think, am I just reacting to this because it's different?
It's people don't like change. I think change is hard, and it's the best you can hope for is self-awareness. I was at kind of a family gathering out in Nebraska a couple weeks back, and interacting with people from a wide range of generations, and there was I think it was interesting to see. There were, I had some uncles who were in their 60s and or even 70s in some cases, and some of them were like, kids these days, and and one of them is very much of the like, no, things are better than they used to be. And I don't know, spent some time with my grandmother, who was turning 94, and she went on kind of a long thing about, obviously the work is not done, but things are in many ways a lot better than they used to be, and especially talking about her life growing up in a very rural part of Nebraska as a girl and a young woman. And this is my grandmother did not live in a house with electricity until and I think until she was an adult, things like that. And it's like, yeah, change is hard, but
there's been a lot of it in 94 years.
There has been. I mean, it was wild to be like, you're sitting here in a room with your grandchildren who are all holding smartphones, and like you lived in a house that didn't have indoor plumbing. you know that's
And like that was the case for a super long time before that too, right?
yeah,
Like
yes.
that's the other thing is like it was like, yeah, we've spent many millennia have a lot of those things, and all of a sudden,
yes, the change happened. Pace of change.
And then we had medicine, and people lived
Medicine.
longer.
Ugh,
I-
where has that ever helped us?
My favorite tidbit of the moment is, so that the Simpsons meme with Skinner saying, no, it's the
Kids these
children who
days,
are
yes.
wrong. That episode is 29 years old.
what?
Someone just dropped dead of a heart attack of old age. Yeah.
From the episode The Boy Who Knew Too Much, which first showed May 5th, 1994.
Wow.
So we are rapidly heading.
Whoa. You're telling me that 1994 was 20 years away? That doesn't seem right. That can't be true.
1994 was almost 30 years away, I think is his point.
Yes.
That's unfair, unkind, James. Why would you do that to us?
I like it because the whole thing is about getting old and seeing the being out of touch, and that whole thing is like now
I think
it's a 29-year-old reference that if you make two kids today, they will possibly look blankly.
we're farther from that than that episode was from Kennedy being assassinated.
Wow.
No, not quite. Close though.
What was the one I
There's
looked
probably
up?
some good barometer there.
There was something I worked out. Let's see, what is it? 19. Just do some maths.
Maths. I was understanding there would be no
You
maths.
love maths.
What was it? Basically, Peacock crossed that thing because Peacock turned 30, and it was like the launch of Peacock was closer to, and what happened in 1962? There was something that happened in 1962, and I was like, I don't think it was Marilyn Monroe dying, but it was, I think it was the Cuban Missile Crisis. I think it was like the launch of Peacock is closer to the Cuban Missile Crisis.
It is also one of those things that is such a different like perspective on where you are in your life, especially like, I mean, I think I was a kid thinking about like regularly like space shuttles were launching, and we were like had this space age thing right in the 80s when I was growing up. And things like, oh man, we landed on the moon like a super long time ago or whatever. And then in retrospect, it was like just a little over a decade before I was born. Does not seem that far anymore.
Yeah.
And then if you want the more depressing part, it's like, the civil rights movement. Not that far before I was born.
Yeah, well, the more depressing thing is I remember growing up, certainly in the 80s and the end of the 80s, thinking you're like, the great, progression of social whatevers, and it's like
we'll be done. We'll have wrapped that up by the time
things will just keep getting better and better.
Yeah. By the time I'm 42, 43, we'll have solved all those societal ills. It's like we'll be in that, and we'll all the medicine will we'll be in Star Trek level where they just go, boop, oh, you're fixed. We cured you.
Yes.
Sadly, not the case. That I'm aware, anyways. If they're holding out on us, somebody let me know.
I think that's just Canada. I think Canada has that, but
their maple syrup too.
That's how they stay young. So
I'm doing it. That is a problem I can fix for myself then.
Dan, that's not real. That's inauthentic maple syrup that you're guzzling there.
Yes,
that's only going to make it worse.
Authentic.
Oh,
you need to drink it direct from the tree.
From the tree.
From the moose.
I do have there is a sugar maple in our backyard that we could tap if we really need to.
You have a maple tree in your backyard?
We do have a sugar maple in our backyard, although it's not doing particularly well this year. So we're having somebody come look at it, which is sad because it's a beautiful tree, and I hope it's not irrevocably ill.
Well, if it's irrevocably ill, drain it of its.
It's probably not that. It's probably not good anymore at that point. If it's like sick, it's like I don't think that's the tree that you want to tap for that kind of thing.
It lends the maple syrup a certain
an
spice.
edge.
Yeah, a spike.
The spice of death.
Variety.
Variety is the spice of death. I believe that is the expression.
Oh man, you know what? If that's not a cozy mystery set in a spice shop, it should be.
There you go.
There we go. I saw. All right, next book. There you go.
Cozy mystery.
Yeah, Dan, you want to pivot to Cozy Mysteries? They're very
It looks
I
like
hear it's the
working
thing.
well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not saying do it with a dog.
I don't know
or a
anything
dog
about
sitter,
dogs, so I'm gonna leave
You can
that
outsource
alone.
that, Dan.
but the babysitter detective,
I did have an idea at one point that I thought would be funny, which would be like a take on sort of Rear Window-esque, but it's like about like parents of a newborn who think they see like a murder or something, but they're so sleep deprived that they don't know.
Writing what you know. I see.
That's right. I just pull it.
Have you accused any neighbors of murder recently?
Not recently.
Not recently.
But babies are good, right? Because it gets you access to a lot of places.
Yeah.
Like, people talk to you when you got a baby, and they let you do stuff like, interrogate them.
So is the baby the detective, or is it the?
I'm not going that far. It's not that high concept.
Well, I just, I'm thinking like the person who's carrying this baby around everywhere to get them access, but who's getting the access?
The baby's just using him. It's like a Ratatouille situation.
It always comes back to Ratatouille with you.
There's not a lot of problems in life.
There's only so many.
By comparison to Ratatouille.
There's only so many stories.
That's right. Classic stories. Man versus man versus society, man versus
Man
God, man versus rodent on their head, making them do things.
Well, it's not really verses, right?
I guess there's
it's a collaboration.
It's a collaboration. Yeah.
I mean, do we not all have rodents on our heads?
In a way, what is the brain but a rodent that something
it's true.
Well, I finished the second bag. I have added basically like a whole other level here to this to the castle. So this is but half of the castle. The other half of the castle is up here behind me. So that felt very productive, just building up these walls. I believe that this is going to be like a little gatehouse here, and I think I was building slots for what I imagine will be a portcullis that will go up and down. It's just nice to say portcullis. It's a very castle-y word.
Why is the wizard standing in the
moat? At the time, each bag comes with, or almost every bag comes with a minifig, and it's like I just have to like put a place for them because I have limited numbers of places to put minifigs in my house, and at the time that was what was available. I will now place the wizard on firmer ground. Is that what you need to see, James?
I mean, I thought with his blue robe, I'm assuming it's a blue robe.
It is, yeah.
He was kind of like
thought some kind of
camouflaging.
Yeah.
Like he was infiltrating the castle in some fashion.
I think this little green guy down here in the kind of Robin Hood-esque outfit is in the narrative, the environmental storytelling of this castle. I think the Robin Hood guy is an infiltrator. But
you can put him in the little dungeon on the other side.
And the cool thing about the little dungeon, I don't know if you remember, since it's been a while since we built, the little dungeon has it has some security issues because there's a little secret passage here that goes out the little dungeon. So yeah, they're
good
very
for
big
entry, bad for exit.
Yeah, they're very into making sliding panels on this castle, which I can appreciate. So
I'm here for it.
Yeah,
I like a good sliding panel.
Did you see the large pirates set that just got announced?
No.
Oh no. There's a pirate set? I had one of the I had not the pirate ship, but I had the like I looked this up not long ago. It was like the Caribbean Clipper or something. It was it had blue and white striped sails.
Yes.
Red and white striped ones, and it was all
so
the
probably
soldiers.
I was
going to
say, your parents didn't allow you to have pirates, Dan. They were all
pirates,
here. Have the police, the police of the pirate world.
I dropped in the chat a link to the El Dorado Fortress.
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
So this is so it's not pirates, it is from the pirate theme, but it is the people
that's 2,500 pieces. Now there's the original below. I might have had this. This looks really familiar.
So James, tell me, is this a classic set that they are re-releasing, or is it like an inspired by?
I think it's an inspired by,
similar to the
if you scroll down,
Knight's Castle on the Galaxy Explorer.
If you scroll down, there's a picture of a box that looks like an original box,
yes.
An older box.
Oh, yeah, I totally had that set, the yellow one.
Yeah. It looks really familiar. I think I might have had this at some point.
So yes,
in which case it's probably still in my parents' attic.
I'm a little disappointed they went with like a fort and not a pirate ship for the pirate theme.
I thought they made a pirate one recently too. Did they not? Like, have
Recently?
I
a
think
I
there
don't think
wasn't there like when they did the space and the castle, was there a pirate?
I thought there was. I'm gonna look.
because I think Castle and Pirate were my two favorite themes. There was a Barracuda Bay a couple years back, which is like
ship.
a pirate. It's like a ship that's turned into a base. It does look pretty cool.
There is a
Oh.
pirate ship, but it is weird looking.
Hmm.
Pirates of Barracuda Bay, Silent Mary. Do they have themes? They have themes. Lego.
Oh, the pirates. Oh, I get it. So there was
There's a
it's
Pirates
a Pirates of
chess
the
set.
Caribbean Lego set.
That's not the same.
Well,
Well,
okay, so this
we
is not
reached
a
the-
pirate set as such. It's just pirate. I don't know.
That's not the same.
Enemies of the pirates, of the good pirates. I would generally consider the British Navy probably were not great. I've seen the Pirates of the Caribbean films.
It's that.
I mean, it's
I
basically
don't think those are
historical.
historical documents, just so we're clear, James. So,
Would Disney lie to me?
I mean,
Probably.
well, it has been just about 90 minutes, so I think that's usually where we wrap up our streams. It looks like about a dozen people or so joined us to watch me build Legos and hear Dan and James chat. Dan, James, any last things we need to share before we sign off?
Take your action figures out of the box when you buy them.
Buy my books.
Yeah, buy Dan's books. Thanks for hanging
Give
out
Tony
with
money
us.
to have fun.
You can whatever,
Yes.
no pressure. Thanks for hanging out with us. These are just our chill every couple weeks or so hang out and chat. Not a podcast hangout sessions. So yeah.
The more people we add, the closer it gets to being a podcast.
Yeah.